So now let's go into a quick practical example. So here's a quick kind of Visio diagram that I put together for you guys so you can understand like what your home network might look like. So let's say you live in an apartment by yourself. You have a smartphone, you have a desktop, you have a laptop, and that's about it. Maybe you have a smart TV. I didn't want to put that on here. So as you can see in the legend in the top left, public connections are solid lines and private connections are the dashed lines. So remember, I told you that when you are at home, you're on a private network. That's the network that all the computers on your network typically can talk to each other. They all have private IP addresses. And then what you're going to see here is that like your laptop, your desktop computer, and your smartphone all reach out to your router, okay? And through your router, you're able to access the internet. Now, all the devices on your network are typically going to share the same public IP address when it's accessing the internet. This is kind of like a security through obscurity kind of thing that it's kind of like unintentional security. So not each one of your devices has a public IP address, so they're not technically, all individually reaching out. We're all using specific ports to reach out to the internet. So all of our traffic goes through the router out to the internet, and then you might go into Gmail, you might go to google.com, or you might go to your social media, and that's pretty much how it works. This is the flow, of a typical home network, okay? So now I'm going to show you another practical example. This is going to be a little more complicated. I'm going to walk you through it, but it's a little bit more of a practical example of what you might see for like a remote company, for example. Like nowadays, and a lot of companies are forced to work remote, or the companies that were already remote are thriving. So the next practical example that I'm going to show you is going to be kind of like a more secure version of a network when you're working remotely. This is kind of like how my personal corporate network is set up. Over here on the left, we have users all over the place, right? We have users at their homes. They're on their laptops, and their laptops reach out to their router and then out to the internet. So each one of these routers, since we're at different places, we have different public IP addresses, and you still see the connection between the user laptop and the router is private. They have a private IP address there. When they're reaching out to the internet, it's public. You see the solid line there. So I see at the bottom, that kind of like represents my setup. I have a hypervisor server called Proxmox and have a bunch of virtual machines set up on it that I use for work and study purposes. So all of those have a private connection. They're all on my private network at home, and they reach out to the router. All those virtual machines can talk to my laptop as well. They reach out to the router, and we all share the same public IP address on the internet, okay, from my network. So the way that we do it, we have a VPN connection. So we go out through the internet with our public IP address, and then we go into our AWS network, which is represented right there by the AWS router. And then it goes over to our VPN server, and this is where we get our private IP addresses. So right here you see all of our user hosts. We all are now on a private network in the AWS, and we all can talk to each other. So versus here where we're not on the same network and we can't really talk to each other, when we all connect to the VPN and we go through the internet, we go through the AWS router, and then we go to our VPN server, we all are now on the same network, which has this address right here, for example. And then there's other servers on there that you might see in some other corporate places. It might be different kinds of servers, but more specifically for me, this is like a more security-based services. And then these reach out to, other tools using our VPN connection. Once we're on this VPN, we can then connect back out to the internet and get onto our G Suite apps like Gmail and such, or just browse the internet. So that's just like a little bit more of a practical, kind of like advanced, kind of semi-advanced example of, you know, a remote based network. So it's something just to help you flex your networking muscle a little bit, make you think a little bit on how networking works. Okay, so now to wrap up networking, you know, you should now have a basic understanding of networking, and with this basic understanding, you should now be able to, you know, understand how your hacking lab that we're about to set up is going to work and how your own personal network works. Okay, so like I said, we're going to be setting up our hacking lab next. So you're going to download and create your hacking virtual machine, and you're also going to set up some vulnerable targets for us to exploit, all from your laptop or your desktop for practice. All right, so thanks for watching this far, and I'll see you guys in the next section.